This is homework set number 3 for ECE 761 Robotics. This deals with translation. The first problem is to translate in the X, Y, and Z direction, and this isn't really necessary, but it kind of shows off well. What I'm going to do is if you take your T matrix, translation matrix, and change element 1,4, that moves it in the X direction. Change element 2,4, changes the Y direction. 3,4 is the Z direction. And to illustrate that, I'm going to take an arrow. That's what this code does. I'll then just have it displace from 0 to 1 in X. I'll go down here to Y. Translate it 0 to 1, and back to 0 in Y. And then Z. So the goal of this is to convince you that, sure enough, changing element 1,4, 2,4, 3,4 does change the position of the object X, Y, Z. The second problem is to take the robot and go through a couple different motions. And to do that, I'll first move it in the Z direction. I'll then rotate it about the X-axis. I'll then slide it in the Z direction relative to the object. And then move it in the Y direction relative to the object. And again, this isn't really necessary, but it does show off well. I'm just going to, instead of moving it all at once, I'm going to do 50 steps for the first motion, 90 steps for the next, and so on. So what you see is, here is moving in the Z direction, rotating in the X axis, moving in the Z direction, and then Y direction. And notice when you're doing this, the matrices keep on multiplying. The object is at the last reference point. Moving it back to reference frame 0, that's Earth coordinates. I can show you where it is relative to Earth coordinates. If I do a second one, it's take the object, move it back to relative to the first, back to the second. Third will be your T 2, 3 times 1, 2 times 0, 1. And then finally, I'll have the last motion. The indices, that's kind of a reminder, say, to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, or going back. The inner dimensions have to match up to be correct. And it's a sequential move. The third problem is, the third problem is to do similar. I'm going to move in the Z direction by 100. I'll then rotate about the Z axis by 30 degrees, change from 45 degrees to show off better. I'll then rotate about the X axis 90 degrees. I'll then translate about the Z axis minus 10. Rotate about the Z axis by 90. And then translate about the Y axis. So here's what that looks like. First, I move in Z by 50, rotate Z by 30, rotate X by 100, translate Z by minus 10, rotate Z by 90, then translate Y by 100, and show you that again. So if you get the assignment working, this is what it should look like. Move Z, rotate Z, rotate X, translate minus Z, rotate Z, translate Y. And notice when you do this, again, you have these matrices cascaded. I'm going to go from the robot coordinates to reference frame 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 0. Reference frame 0 is Earth coordinates. So that's what homework set number 3 should look like.